I will start with the fourth precept, which is the awareness of suffering. And it reads, do not avoid contact with suffering or close your eyes before suffering. Do not lose awareness of the existence of suffering in the life of the world. Find ways to be with those who are suffering, including personal contact, visits, images, and sounds. By such means, awaken yourself and others to the reality of suffering in the world. And Thich Nhat Hanh expanded on this guideline, saying that in the first Dharma talks given by the Buddha, he laid out the foundational tenets of Buddhism in the Four Noble Truths, teaching about the nature of suffering and the path to ending suffering. We must be aware of where we are unwell and where we are suffering to know how to seek treatment and to seek healing. The first noble truth acknowledges the presence of suffering in life. The second noble truth addresses the cause of suffering. The third addresses the possibility of removing suffering. And the fourth tells us how to remove it. And Thich Nhat Hanh says that suffering can be therapeutic. Awareness of suffering encourages us to search for its cause and to find out what is going on within us and within the world today. But from experience, since he lived through the war in Vietnam and many situations in the world, he knew firsthand that we have to be careful, as taking on too much suffering can destroy our capacity to love. So we have to know our limits and be able to maintain the balance between being aware of what is dreadful in life and being in touch with the beauty and the wonder of life. While walking the path of mindfulness, we must take great care to embody the states of loving kindness, compassion, joy, equanimity, which are the states which relieve suffering. As the Order of Interbeing demonstrated during the Vietnam War, joy and peace can be present in the midst of pain. Being in the present moment with each other while facing whatever is taking place is the most beautiful thing that we can do. It does not eliminate all that is painful, but it does alleviate suffering. He speaks about how our interconnection with each other and with all living beings is intimate. And when we feel peaceful and happy, we will not cause suffering in others. When we work to alleviate the suffering in others, we can feel peaceful and happy in that work as well. The meaning of Mahayana, the great vehicle, is to liberate not just ourselves, but ourselves and others. We study and practice mindfulness to be aware of what is going on in ourselves and in the world around us, so that we can nourish the seeds of peacefulness and weed out the seeds of suffering and conflict. What is going on in the world is also going on within ourselves, and vice versa. Once we have this clarity, we are willing to take a position to act in the directions which relieve suffering. Our wisdom and compassion increase by practicing Buddhism while we are helping others in need, and not by being cloistered from the world. Thich Nhat Hanh points out that there is a relationship between the nature of the self and the nature of suffering, injustice, and war. He says, if we cannot see what is going on around us, how can we see into our own nature? To see into our own nature, well, then he says, to see into the true nature of the world's weapons is to see into our own true nature. And when I read these last sentences, it really stopped me. I just had to really be with them and think about it. And then I remembered a practice that I put myself through. And it seemed like a really powerful example. So I wanted to share it with you. It was about 11 years ago. I was really shocked to read that over half of the people employed in the United States work for some aspect of the military-industrial complex. And that just really struck me hard. And I realized pretty quickly how deeply committed people are to the way in which they make a living. And so I knew what I was up against with my desire to change the direction of ever increasing investment in a defense system as livelihood and as an illusion of protection and safety. And living here in Santa Fe below Los Alamos National Laboratory, where nuclear weapons are constructed, while being aware of this teaching that our consciousness manifests the collective and the collective manifests our consciousness, it's a reflection, an exchange. I decided that maybe one thing I could do was to track how defensiveness functioned in my life. And so I took on a pretty serious practice to see if I could begin to dismantle my own defense system. So I applied mindfulness to begin to watch what triggered my chain of defensive reaction and see how it functioned. And I found that feeling threatened was the trigger point, a main trigger point from which anger and aggressive reaction kind of spontaneously arose in me. And everything which increased my sense of vulnerability to disease, injury, death, was experienced as threatening. And situations which defame my character were also a major trigger. And I realized that within patriarchal consciousness, being humiliated engenders its own need to retaliate and justifies going to war, either inside ourselves, interpersonally, or between nations. And so I really saw how humiliation fed this warring energy in the world. And tied to humiliation, I saw there was this fierce need to defend innocence. In our society, innocence is associated with freedom and goodness, and lack of innocence is associated with being condemned, punished, and marginalized. And so I found places within myself which irresistibly hated anything or anyone who colored me as other than innocent. And I became aware of a collective obsession with innocence, which, anyway, I'm still kind of ponder that one. And when feeling threatened, I wanted to threaten others. I saw that reaction in myself. I wanted to engage in that common war tactic of deterrence to defend myself with an even bigger threat. to what I felt was threatening me. And this is where peace gets set aside and fight begins. And I found the path within myself, which has led nations to choose to create ever bigger and better bombs and to avoid feeling vulnerable, to deter humiliation, and to claim innocence while wielding aggressiveness. So I just started watching all this weaving of what's involved in defensiveness. And yet, you know, all these external defense systems cause great suffering, and they threaten the very existence of life by being the greatest contributors to global warming and environmental degradation. And that's through their being manufactured, through being tested, and being used in battle. And so I wondered about that reflection in my own life of how much degradation was caused by my defensiveness. And without the awareness of mindfulness, human defense systems take bizarre forms in an attempt to ward off the precarity of life, but in the meantime, increasing it. And so it's a big issue of how to be with this precarity of life, with our vulnerability. I came to see how weapons of mass destruction are an extension of my own personal defense system, arising from belief in being a separate self and trying to defend that separate self and that separate self life. And now I wonder at the transformative power which would arise if many of us took up such an exploration of disarming our defenses together. Anyway, Thich Nhat Hanh ends the discourse on the fourth precept by saying, staying in touch with the reality of suffering keeps us sane and nourishes the well springs of understanding and compassion. It affirms in us the will to practice the Bodhisattva's way, which says, living beings are numberless, and I vow to help by rowing them to the other shore. So the Bodhisattva vow is to help all beings. And every act, even eating a sandwich or spending money, is an occasion for us to practice awareness. In each moment, we are mindfully present. We are transforming the world. And the fifth precept is on living simply. It says, do not accumulate wealth while millions are hungry. Do not take as the aim of your life fame, profit, or sensual pleasure. Live simply and share time, energy, and material resources with those who are in need. The two aims of the Buddhist life are to realize insight and to help people. And how can we have time to live this way if we are constantly pursuing personal wealth and fame? The Sutra on the 8 Realizations of Great Beings says, the human is always searching for possessions and never feeling fulfilled. This causes impure actions ever to increase. Bodhisattvas live a simple life in peace in order to practice the way, and they consider the realization of perfect understanding as their only career. I find this very beautiful. So much emphasis on our careers and our dream careers and our successes. And he says, within the context of modern society, simple living also means to remain as free as possible from the destructive momentum of social and economic pressures and anxieties, to avoid modern diseases such as stress, depression, high blood pressure, and heart disease. The only way out of these is to consume less and to be content with fewer possessions. And he encourages people to discuss the possibilities of how to live simply and happily together, and finding new ways to do this. And once we are able to live simply and happily, we have more time and energy and are thus better able to help others.